Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Such a lively crowd today. I love it when we pack them in the courtroom. And it beats the humidity that's outside from corn sweat. Welcome to the McLean County Museum of History. My name is Candace Summers. I am the Senior Director of Education here, and I am pleased to welcome you to today's Lunch and Learn featuring Bill Thomas, Curator of the American Giants Museum in Atlanta, Illinois, and the Economic Director of Logan County. Before I turn it over to Bill and we can learn all about the Giants that now inhabit Atlanta, Illinois, I'd like to thank our Lunch and Learn sponsor, MCK CPAs and Advisors, and our live stream sponsor, WGLT, your local public media, which is part of the NPR network. And this program is being live streamed and recorded, so if you don't want it to live forever on the internet, mind your P's and Q's. And at the end, we will have a question and answer. I just ask that you wait till I get to you with the microphone so our folks from at home who are live streaming can hear our questions. But if I can't, Bill will repeat it so we can hear it as well and have that discussion. And like I said, we're gonna find out why Atlanta, Illinois became the largest concentration of American giants anywhere along Route 66 from Chicago to LA, and the impact of the museum in Atlanta as an example of what is possible along the Mother Road. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Bill Thomas.
Okay. Thank you very much. About 20 and a half miles south of here, we are making a concerted effort to develop a land of the giants, and we're having some success at doing that. By the time, this time next year, our goal is to have a total of 8 20-foot or taller international fiberglass giants in Little Atlanta, Illinois, all within about a 3-block area, which will, as Candace referenced, make it the single largest concentration of American giants anywhere from Chicago to LA on Route 66, okay? Everybody needs a marketing hook, and we've got lots in Atlanta, but that's what we're shooting for next. So let's dive right in, and I want to introduce you to the American Giants Museum, and we're going to cover about 4 questions. What is this place? Whoops. What are all these giants? Where did they come from? And how has the American Giants Museum impacted Atlanta? It all starts with a rodeo cowboy named Bob Pruitt. In the early 1960s, Bob was working with fiberglass, but he wasn't doing anything like what it all turned into. He had the idea that horse trailers of the day were made of metal, and he thought he could make a superior product out of fiberglass. It would be lighter, easier to haul behind a truck. So he designed one, and then he thought, you know what? I'll put a little sizzle in it, and I'll create a fiberglass horse and put it in the back, and I'll go off to rodeos across the country and just make a killing selling trailers. So Bob Pruitt, his fiberglass horse, and his fiberglass trailer went out on the circuit. First place they stopped, he sold 2 trailers, he sold 16 horses. Okay? Bob, being the businessman that he is, then created Pruitt Fiberglass Animals. Okay, and that became the main focus of his work. How did we get to the giants then? The very first one, which by the way still exists in the town where it originally went. But the backstory is this. Someone ordered a 20-foot tall lumberjack figure from Bob Pruitt. Bob Pruitt had to hire a sculptor to make the molds for the fiberglass, and almost every giant muffler man from then on used that original mold or copies of that mold. The order was placed by a gentleman in Sacramento, California, and the week it was done, the guy canceled his order. Bob Pruitt is now stuck with a 20-foot tall lumberjack figure holding an axe. So what does he do? He's an entrepreneur. He put it on a flatbed trailer, left Venice, California, and headed east on Route 66. He got to Flagstaff, Arizona, and have any of you, it's kind of fuzzy, but he pulled up in front of a restaurant called the Lumberjack Cafe. Honest to God, true story, he went inside, they bought it, and it stood there for decades. The cafe eventually closed, and it now is on the campus of Northern Arizona University, where it is their mascot. But the original still exists, and I just love that fact. Okay, well, that's only one, though. He next decided to make his business even bigger. Well, what he decided to do was sell his original business to a guy named Stanley Dashew. Okay? Stanley Dashew renamed the company International Fiberglass, and Stanley's main business was building fiberglass boats. Made a lot of sense. There was a big market for those in the 60s. But the business was only vibrant during the summer months. So he decided, well, I've got this mold for a 20-foot fiberglass statue. Let me just see if I can make some of these, and it'll give my son something to do in the winter months, and maybe we'll make a little bit of money off of it. So they did that. One of the first ones that they built ended up out at a Phillips 66 gas station in Las Vegas. He had, Stanley and Steve Dashew had working for them a very savvy marketing director. She managed to get a story placed about this particular giant in a trade magazine, including the quote from the owner of that gas station, "My sales have tripled since I brought this giant onto my property." Then it took off. Everybody wanted one. Well, what was it about it, though? Because I like to know this kind of backstory. What was it about those giants that made them work? This picture illustrates it. Over the 40s, 50s, and 60s, roadsides were dominated by flat, two-dimensional signage, including neon, which did a great job of attracting people, but it just became saturated. So instead, International Fiberglass said, we'll give you giants and they will stick out because they have three-dimensional selling power. Okay, and they did. So they have, these are a couple of their original sales sheets showing you they just made a multitude of giants. Okay? So that's the origin of where they came from. Well, now, what is this thing in Atlanta? The American Giants Museum. Every story has a genesis. And in our case, the genesis happened, I wish I could remember exactly, on a summer day in 2011. I looked out my office window, and the view out my window is of our Bunyan statue. You know him, I assume. He's been with us 22 years now, okay, attracting lots of folks to town. But I looked out the window, and here's some guy across the street with a long pole, camera phone on the top of it, and he's got it up by our Bunyan giant's head, filming it. Okay, I couldn't resist. I walked out, introduced myself, and I'm a historian by trade, taught history, that's my degree. We have a photograph of the very first time I met this guy, okay? This is the day Joel Baker, the leading expert on American giants in the country, came to Atlanta. I saw him out my window, and we became friends from that day. Now, interestingly, that conversation, let me go back. I remember that conversation. Joel I didn't know anything about International Fiberglass or giants. He was saying, oh, Bill, it's a passion of mine. I want to find all the ones that still exist and save them because I just think they're so interesting. That's not his job. That's his passion. Joel has a day job. He does videography work for a major religious broadcasting network. That's why he had a film crew with him and why we have a photo of that day. Anyway, he said, I have managed to get a number of original giants from International Fiberglass. I have ephemera, paperwork, and photos from their company. I have full-blown giants. I have body parts. What I don't have is a museum. Even way back then, I looked at him and said, Joel, one day we'll give you a museum, because I think this is a really cool idea too. So, my way of thinking is, okay, well, if we're going to do a museum, first place to start is, well, what's the purpose of this place? We need it to be focused so we can accomplish whatever that purpose is. Our purpose at the American Giants Museum is fundamentally two things. We are there to tell the story of International Fiberglass Company and the line of products that it made, and we share the story of Joel Baker and how he almost single-handedly has helped save so many of them and create what is now a renaissance in them. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. The architecture of the building. What does it look like? Mid-circa, I was going for 1965, Texaco gas station. Joel showed me this picture when we were talking about the museum. This isn't a real gas station. This is some gentleman's hobby project in retirement, the bottom photo with the gas pumps out there. But he said, Bill, let's make it look like that. And I said, why? And he goes, because one of the first and biggest artifacts you're going to have is a 22-foot tall Texaco Big Friend. And we want him to feel at home. Okay? So he does. So that's why it looks like this, and I'll share with you very quickly. One of the best phone calls I've had in months happened about 4 months ago. Someone from the Illinois, the SHPO's office, the State Historic Preservation Office, called me up and said, hey, we were doing some Section 106 reviews about something, and we ran across photos of this vintage gas station you have in Atlanta, and we need to talk with you about getting that on the National Register of Historic Places. Yes! Yes! I said, well, it's only a couple years old. So here it is when it was just finished in October of 2022. You can't see them very well, but these three guys are very special to me. Not special enough for me to remember their names, but they're very special because they built that thing from the ground up. All it is like a pole barn building, a Morton building. It's metal, but they did a fabulous job. In 2023, we worked on interior design and getting exhibits up, and we had sort of a soft opening. And then Memorial Day weekend of 2024, we had our grand opening. Joel came out, who is shown here in the picture, cutting a giant ribbon that we put up. We had over 600 people there that day for the grand opening. And remember, Atlanta, Illinois has 1,649 people. At least that was the count this morning when I got up, and I've not heard any news one way or the other, but anytime we get that many people in town for a single event, we are happy. Let me share with you just a couple of the exhibits that you can see when you come to the American Giants Museum, because of course I want you all to come down in person. But obviously, let's start with the Texaco Big Friend. In about 1965, Texaco Oil Company saw what was happening with these giants and other oil companies like Phillips 66 using them, and it said, oh, we've got to get in on this, but ours is going to be bigger and better than anybody else's. So they commissioned 300 22-foot tall Texaco Big Friends. They hired a fine artist to come and sculpt. They actually brought in a real Texaco service station attendant in his uniform, had the artist sculpt him in clay so they could then make the mold of the uniform. They went all out. The plan was they were going to spread these 300 Texaco Big Friends across the country at various service stations, and then after so many weeks, the dealers would pack them up and they'd go to another station. Brilliant marketing campaign. It was designed, if it was successful, they were going to order 2,000 more, and there would have been 2,300 of these out in the world. The campaign was not successful, not at all. The dealers shown here packing one up hated it. They didn't like having to pack these things up and send it away. They didn't like the fact that it's hard to see in the photo here, but these Texaco Big Friends kept falling over, okay? And they'd have to put guy wires on them, and that would look ugly in their station. But my favorite complaint came from the general public. There was a woman named Sarah Jackson who wrote a letter because one of these got installed across the street from her, and Sarah said, "I don't like it. It looks in my living room." Texaco pulled the plug on the campaign and said, destroy all 300. They actually sent out Texaco agents to track down all 300 22-foot tall Big Friends. 6 managed to survive. And that's what we have, one of those 6 at the Giants Museum. After he left the Texaco station where he was at, this guy was bought by a company that manufactured homes. They built manufactured homes out in Nevada. He was put on top of a 30-foot pole with this sign. They changed his hat and made him sort of like a Robin Hood character. He was on there for decades. Then they very nastily, in a bad way, when the company went out of business, took him down. And as you see in the top right-hand corner here, he ended up in a landfill in pieces, okay? If you look on this side, the left side, that's his front chest and torso, and there's a huge chunk of him missing. Here we are, not we, the people who restored him, starting to put him back together. It was a very extensive process, but now he is a pristine, fully restored, one of only 6 Texaco Big Friends in the country. And he was the first of the 6 that got restored. About a month ago, a second one was finished. But he is our big friend, sits outside, and then there's a whole giant, yeah, pun intended, exhibit on him inside. Other exhibits, can you see the tiger up at the top? Do you all remember Esso gas stations? That turned into Exxon, okay? But they ran, as a kid, this was one of my favorite ad campaigns. Our gasoline is so powerful, it's like putting a tiger in your tank, okay? They hired International Fiberglass to construct 2 different sizes, a 7-foot and an 11-foot tiger, as part of their promotional campaign. When they first launched the campaign, they put the tigers on top of the gas pumps. They would put them on the ground by the gas pumps, and people would steal them. Okay? So they had to come up with a new idea. I don't have a photo of it, but they then started putting them on the roof of the gas stations, and that is why he is up on a ledge, because again, we wanted him to feel at home too. So he's up there. Another exhibit, you all remember A&W root beer stands? In the mid-60s, they had a line of products on their menu. They were just different size burgers. You had a Papa Burger, Mama Burger, Teen Burger, and a Baby Burger. Here at the Giants Museum, we're fortunate to have a Mama Burger, okay? And we had a Baby Burger, but it got sold. That happens once in a while. But that's a fun exhibit to check out. And then, oh my gosh, just last June, we got a Big Boy. Now, interesting thing, this is not a Bob's Big Boy. The company that was behind that franchise worked with like 3 or 4 different restaurants. Bob's, Big Boy, Shoney's, Big Boy, which was primarily out on the East Coast, and for the life of me, I'm not going to remember the other 2. But this is a Shoney's, okay? Delightful backstory. Joel Baker found this out on the East Coast. An elderly woman owned it because when she was a child, her father worked at the restaurant where this Big Boy was, and she loved it. Every time they would go out to the restaurant, she would hug the Big Boy before they went in. So when they closed the restaurant down, he bought it for her. We actually have photos of it. It sat in their living room. They would put their Christmas tree up next to the Shoney's Big Boy. So it's just, I love the backstory on these things. How have they, now there's a lot more at the Giants Museum, so please do come visit us. How have they impacted Atlanta, Illinois? Well, first and foremost, not through our doing, but through a local businessman's doing, the Giants Museum has added another giant to the community. Any of you ever been to the Country Air restaurant on the edge of town right by the interstate? I know the family that runs that place, known them for decades. They saw what a crowd the museum was attracting. Nick, the owner, came to me after our grand opening in 2024 and said, Bill, I want one of those. I said, okay, Nick, they're kind of pricey. And he said, well, but my wife wants it. So I said, okay. And real quick backstory, his wife, Lumi, L-U-M-I, they're Albanian, just a delightful couple. Lumi is a fantastic pie baker, okay? And he said, I want a waitress, and I want the waitress holding a giant pie, and I'm going to put it out in front of the restaurant in the parking lot. $25,000 later, whoops, it arrived on a flatbed trailer, including the pie, and we hoisted her up, and you can now see Lumi right outside the restaurant. Nick's told me it has had, and I know he wouldn't pull my leg on this, it's had an appreciable impact on his day-to-day business, okay? So we're thrilled that we've had that impact. In addition, all of these giants have shined a spotlight on Atlanta that we never would have had. I thought we were very fortunate to get the Bunyan giant 22 years ago because he became globally known and the Illinois Office of Tourism promoted him. People from all over the world would come wanting to see him. But now we have the Giants Museum and just a sprinkling of earned media that we've gotten. Our very first year we were on a CBS Sunday morning program. They did a feature on Joel and the Giants Museum was included. We also were on the front page just this past June of the Chicago Tribune. But for me anyway, the highlight, it just doesn't get any better than this. We were featured in the annual Arts and Leisure section of the New York Times. Yeah. 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 So it's just, if you know anything about marketing and media, anytime you can get earned, i.e. free media, that's what you want. So we have so benefited from that. And of course, it is helping us bring more tourists to town. I remember sitting at a planning commission meeting in Atlanta in about 1991, 92, and like so many towns, our town was drying up. Storefront after storefront had already closed, and the rest of them were on thin ice. Facetiously, because I can be a bit facetious at times, I looked at the group and said, well, you know, Route 66 is right there. I said, let's create, and my God, I use this phrase even, let's create an Atlanta tourism industry. And they laughed. I think I even laughed. But now look where we are, okay? We started with the J.H. Hawes Grain Elevator Museum, which needed to be saved just because it's such amazing history for our rural area. And then we went on, we brought the Bunyan Giant in, we restored a coal mine building, we restored, et cetera, et cetera. We have fully embraced tourism to the point of, this is just data from the American Giants Museum. In 2024, we had 7,787 people sign the guest book. Almost 8,000 people took the time to walk in the door and sign. And those of you who work in the visitor center downstairs, you know they don't always sign. Or there are people milling outside who don't come in, but they're still coming to your town. So we were thrilled at that. To date, we have 2,230 signatures in the guest book. Last year at this time, we had 2,053. So we're up about 9%, and I was shocked. Okay, my wife keeps the data on this, and if someone would have just asked me, oh, you think things are better this year, or what? I said, oh, no, we're not doing as well. No, she of course put the data in front of me and said, no, Bill, here, this is right. Terry, are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing a little bit of an increase? Yeah. Given the world we live in and all the challenges, I'm thrilled at that. So, and especially to have the data to prove it. What's next? Yes, of course there's next. We just finished a new piece that we'll use in our rotating exhibits section. We have two big platforms in the museum on which we swap out various body parts. And in this case, the next thing that's coming is an international fiberglass giraffe. When they first built these, I think they're about 18 feet tall or 20 feet tall, and they actually came, as you can see here in the lower left-hand corner, a body and a neck and head. We're getting a 7-foot tall head that will be in. He's not quite finished being refurbished, but we've got the interpretive panel all ready for him when he does come. This, I'm sorry, it's a little small and hard to read perhaps, but this is an overhead view of the grounds of the Giants Museum. Of course, the museum itself, the Texaco Big Friend off to the upper left. And then over here is what we actually call the Route 66 Land of the Giants rest stop area. We poured 5 10-foot by 12-foot and about 2-foot thick, and then stuff in the ground too, concrete pads, and our job now is to fill those up, and we are. We have 3 of them filled already. Very quickly, I shouldn't probably do this, but let's go all the way back. Yeah, here are the 3 that are there right now. A Snurd giant, a Viking giant that just came Memorial Day, and a Phillips 66 cowboy. So on to the diagram. So they fill and occupy these 3 squares. These 2 are empty, but we're already pretty certain next year we'll be bringing in an international fiberglass Indian brave giant. Joel managed to find one. There was a shop up in Bemidji, Minnesota, who'd had this for decades, going out of business. Joel was able to purchase it after very carefully ensuring that nobody else in town had the wherewithal to keep it there, because he and I are both very concerned about leaving historic artifacts where they originated, but there were no takers, so he's under restoration right now, and he'll be coming to us. And then a really unique giant that we've not been able to find the name that International Fiberglass used for this, so Joel dubbed it the waving giant, and it was sort of an all-purpose thing. You could dress it up, whatever your business need was, but what Joel and I like about it is, look at its head, and then here are the heads, the standard heads of the other giants that International Fiberglass made. Here's the standard bunion, and I'll give away a trade secret. See the bunion down here on the bottom left? See his beard? This is the exact same head. His face is just colored flesh tone. You don't see the beard, okay? But the head is very different on the waving giant from all the rest, so we thought, let's show a diversity of products, and that's what we will be doing. So, I think we've gone through all of the questions that I told you I was going to share with you, and that's what's next. But I am always very happy to also share my contact information. Please feel free to write that down. And I was talking to Darren earlier. Nobody asked for this, but I also happen to I'm very involved in the Route 66 Centennial planning for next year. I sit on the Federal Commission. And if you're doing a project here in Central Illinois that you want designated as Route 66 Centennial certified, I can help make that happen for you, and you can use that for promotional purposes, okay? But back to the Giants Museum. I'm ready for questions, Candace.
Oh, what? Hand shot right up first.
Okay.
Hold on.
This is great. Glad to see it. I need to get down to Atlanta. Question, where is the restoration being done?
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is that the Santas that we had here at that it was a Jumonville local person who had done it. I just was curious of what you have.
Right. Another friend and couple colleagues of Joel's live down in southern Illinois in West Frankfort, way down there, and Joel used to live down there. When they first started restoring giants, they had a pole building and they turned it into a fiberglass workshop, and then they have another small garage where they do finishing work, and to this day, that's where the giants that Joel and I work on primarily get restored. There is, however, now, because of the renaissance that's been happening the last 5 years. There's a place out in Virginia run by a gentleman named Mark Klein, who has one of the best business names. I love it. The name of his business is Enchanted Castle Studio. Okay? He is a real artist. He's a bit of an eccentric, but he can make brand new ones in addition to restoring. He made the Lumi waitress with the pie, giant. Okay?
I had two questions. One.
No, Darren, only one. I'm sorry.
Okay. One's
there's
very
a limit.
quick. One is, I promise it's very
Okay.
quick. You mentioned the ledger. Do you also have a map of the country or the world? I've seen Route 66 sites with that. The other is, you mentioned 6 of the Texaco guys survived. Did they run and hide? How did they survive?
Our guy happened to have been taken down when the edict went out to destroy them all, and he was at a boat repair shop getting some repairs, and when the Texaco agents came, I don't know. Well, no, I don't know if that's apocryphal or if that's accurate, but I like the story, so. But I do know for certain he was off-site being repaired at a boat shop, and then there's a unique story for the other 5, and that's all inside the museum for you to read when you come. And I'm sorry, Darren, what was the first question you asked?
You mentioned the ledger. I've seen Route 66 locations that have maps of the world, and it's amazing how, when you look at the push pins, how far away. There's an ice cream shop in Girard, Illinois that has that, and
Yes.
they have people from all over the world. The pins are Australia, Japan, Russia. It's amazing.
When I was very active in the Atlanta Museum, we had that same kind of a deal with the world map, US map, state map. And, you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound jaded, but after a few years, because I did that for 15 plus years, oh, okay, another pin in Italy. Okay, another pin in Germany. Walk into the museum one day, pin in Uzbekistan. And I said, oh my God, we've arrived. Somebody from Uzbekistan, or some kid, just, I don't know, but, yeah. Yes?
How do you get lines on endangered giants?
Joel has become so well known now, primarily through his YouTube channel. Every Sunday, because of his TV production and video background, he launches a new 15 to 20 minute video on YouTube about some aspect of the world of American giants. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of followers he has, but other people have picked up on the bug, and they will notify him, okay? There's a wonderful gentleman named Dave Disler, who I believe was out of Indiana. Oh yeah, this is our Phillips 66 Cowboy, one of the ones that we just got this year. Dave Disler helped Joel find that original giant. Joel had heard about it 20 years ago. Somebody, or not 20, yeah, 20 years ago, somebody said, oh, it's in such and such town in Georgia. He kept searching. Joel even went down to the town with a picture, walked the sidewalks. Have you seen this giant? That's how passionate he is. Finally, Dave Disler helped discover it wasn't that town, it was a neighboring town, and it was out in the woods on these people's farm. I'll never forget the day Joel called me up, and he sounded like an excited 9-year-old boy on Christmas because he'd found it. But it was out in the woods so far back, they drove their truck, they had to stop and hike to the giant. He, of course, filmed it all, so you can go to his YouTube channel if you want to watch the expression on his face when he turns and there's the giant in the woods. So people just help, okay? Give clues.
Up north?
Yes, I helped a little bit with that. I was one of the proponents for, we have to make sure that some entity or person in Wilmington purchases this, because it should not leave Wilmington. All sorts of people crawled out of the woodwork and wanted us to take it at the Giants Museum. I said, no, that belongs in Wilmington. So we helped with that, and we helped arrange for the restoration.
And, oh, okay, Jeff then.
I think I know that man. Yeah. Hi, Jeff.
I know you too. I recognize you in a tie.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
doesn't happen very often, Jeff.
Thanks for doing this, and I really appreciate your passion. Bill, my question for you is, now that Jana kind of got me thinking about this, in terms of marketing, and I know what they've done with the Gemini Giant, will we be making any souvenirs of any of the giants, American giants here in Atlanta?
I promise you I did not pay Jeff to ask that question, that you can go to AmericanGiantsMuseum.org online to our website, and of course there's a store. And you can drive down to Atlanta, and we have provided wholesale merchandise to the little shops in Atlanta. We don't sell anything out of the museum, because our job isn't to make money, it's to send people to our shops. So you've got those two avenues.
One of the things I always think about when fiberglass is the McDonald's fiberglass items as well. Did International do any of those in the 70s, where they had the playlands and all that?
Oh, they had the Hamburglar and
Right.
Ronald McDonald and all
Grimace.
that. I have not seen that on any of the sales sheets that I've looked at, but that's a great question that nobody has ever asked me. So I'm going to ask Joel that, and then if I find out an answer, I'll let Candace know, and maybe you can get
And if that's the case, is then that going to be something that you add to maybe
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the exhibits?
Yeah.
And is the Livingston Santa that was mentioned ever going to come down for a visit?
I don't know. I do know International Fiberglass did, I don't have a picture of it with me, but they did make at least one Santa that Joel refers to as the creepy Santa. It's just very tall, and it has just a really strange visage, but we may get that this holiday season just as a visitor for a while.
I think only if we find 8 reindeer to take Santa
There you
down
go.
there
Yeah.
will he make a trip.
I don't know if I want to sign that loan for him. I don't know. They're too valuable. What I do want, though, and I love all of your help, I tell people in the museum all the time, what we do want is a Sinclair Gasoline Company dinosaur.
Oh.
But everybody who has one is not giving them away or selling them. But yes, we want one.
Oh, Ruthie.
Well, 2 questions here. Is the Lauterbach Tire Man still standing in Springfield?
Proudly,
Okay.
yes. And
All right.
he's an original International Fiberglass muffler man.
He's got a rocket, right? Or no?
I
can't
think isn't he holding a flag still?
It's been a long
Okay,
time
I think
since I saw
flag.
him, but
I
okay.
think flag.
And the other thing, Pam will attest to this, for years, we have been pointing out to other people in tourism and generally, what a great job you folks in Atlanta have always done with the things
Thank
that
you,
you have to promote. I love the new coal mine exhibit. That's a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
And the Atlanta Museum and all the things that you have all worked so hard for so many years. And it's wonderful to hear that your success is literally paying off in the numbers
Yeah.
and the visitors to your town. So bravo.
Yeah, thank you, Ruthie. And I always tell, I really appreciate that. Thank you. There is nothing, well, no, there's a whole lot unique about what we've done in Atlanta. But the principles we have followed for coming up with our ideas and developing them are available and universal. Any town can use them. So, Herb. Well, hang on, they got a mic here, Herb. Yeah.
On that account, have you guys done any calculation of retail sales tax you've gotten in from the sales, and does that bear out in any manner?
Yeah. I don't track it as closely as I used to, Herb, but from when I first became involved in tourism in about 2008, 2009, we really had nothing in town for tourists, okay? But in 2009, we had restored the Hawes Elevator by then, and we opened the Palms Grill Cafe then, and the Bunyan Giant was across the street. So I said, we need to track annual sales tax revenue against the base year of 2008, and we have. From 2009 to present, our sales tax revenue has increased by 43% compared to that base year.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I cannot, because of tax laws, et cetera, I can't say this business is generating this much. They won't release that data, so it's aggregate. But yes, we have seen an appreciable increase. Yeah.
Because we're sitting in the trapeze capital of the world here in Bloomington Normal, did International ever have any fiberglass circus characters or animals?
They did a couple of clowns. I don't know if they did them specifically for the circus or for amusement parks. Amusement parks were a huge customer for them, but that's all I can think of. Yeah.
Are you aware of the animals that are out at the Nord Animal Hospital? Are they fiberglass, and were they part of that?
Oh, educate me. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know.
There's out west of town, there's at the Nord Animal Hospital, they have, I don't know, probably 10 different big animals.
Oh, okay, well, I'm sure they're online, right?
There's a giraffe, yeah.
Okay, I'll look them up. Yeah, that'd be fun to see.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Nord, N-O-R-D.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember what year it was, but the Champagne British Car Club went to Atlanta, and we parked all along the main street. Somebody got something we could climb up on it and take a picture of all the cars. And it was absolutely.
It was a ladder that I brought out.
It was absolutely
Yeah.
delightful. So
Yeah,
what year,
I remember that.
What year was that?
Oh, I'm a history major. I don't know years.
We got time for one more question. One more burning question. No? All right. Well, thank you, Bill, for telling us all about the land of the giants in Atlanta, Illinois. Now, who's going to go hop in their car, get on 66, and go see the giants today?
Please.
Please, yes, absolutely.
I've left town for the weekend, though. I'm going north, so you won't see me.
Well, I know I am definitely going to go check out that area because I grew up not far from Peoria, so I remember their big Loomy Girl out there.
Oh, the Uniroyal Tire
Yes,
now on Washington
yes.
Street
Yep.
in Peoria, yes.
That's a
Yes.
childhood thing I remember.
Me too. Oh, we got to talk.
I want to once again thank MCK, CPAs, and advisors for sponsoring our series and WGLT for sponsoring our live stream. We hope that you all will come back and join us next month on Thursday, August 14th to learn about the history of McLean County Fairs from the one and only ag historian Don Meyer. So enjoy the rest of your day and go get your kicks on Route 66.
Candace, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
So